Okay, so one night many years ago, when I was working on material for my one man show called 20 and Out, which basically chronicalizes my career with the NYPD, I did a chunk of material at the Eastville Comedy Club. And when I was done, and I was by the bar, a cocktail waitress who happened to catch some of the set said to me, "Oh, wow, you were a detective? You must have handled some really interesting cases." And when she said that, it really changed the dynamic of the show and what I was going to write. Because the reality was, I always wanted to investigate homicides. I was in the warrant squad, and when I got put in the detective squad, I thought, why not? Since I'm here, uh, and then I wound up investigating robberies and burglaries instead. And the truth is, a lot of those cases aren't as interesting. They're not going to make it to Law and Order, put it that way. You're not going to watch those on CSI. So when she said to me, "Wow, you must have handled some interesting cases," my natural response was, I was like, "Nah, not really. Most of the cases I catch are bullshit, man. Stupid stuff, neighborhood nonsense." And I'll give you one. And when I was investigating robberies, I got stuck with a pattern. It was called the Tuna Caper. All right, so the reason why we have this backdrop is because this is a deli or a bodega that you would find in Manhattan, New York City, the Bronx, anywhere in the five boroughs. This is what the average typical deli or bodega looks like. And there happened to be somebody who was going into the delis and stealing tuna fish. And this guy didn't know the boundaries of particular precincts, so he was stealing tuna fish all over Harlem. His MO was that he'd wear a hoodie way over his head, oversized hoodie, and he was a little guy, and he would walk inside the deli, probably in between a couple of other people. He'd wait for the right time so he could be, I guess, inconspicuous. And then he would blend around the deli until he could find where they kept the tuna aisle. And then when nobody was looking, he used to take the tuna and he'd stuff them in his hoodie, the pockets of his hoodie, and he would clear out all the tuna. Then he would look around and he'd bolt for the door. So because he didn't just strike in my particular precinct, he was doing this all over Manhattan North for a couple of weeks. And I was the originating precinct, and I happened to be the catching detective of the first one. This became my pattern, the Tuna Caper. And it's funny because you get calls about this kind of stuff from downtown. So how's the Tuna Caper going? Like, I got to answer questions like, when's the next time the guy's going to strike to steal his cans of tuna? Well, I'll tell you when. One night I'm working, and all of a sudden, deli gets hit. That deli happened to be on Broadway between, I don't know, it was like 122 to 125 on one of those streets on Broadway. And sure enough, the guy walks in. He's kind of blending in with two people who walked in at the same time. He's got the hoodie over. A little guy works his way until he finds a tuna, and then he starts stuffing his pockets with the tuna. And as he's making his way for the door, the guy who was working the counter at this particular deli notices him, Indian guy. And he says, "Oh, my friend." And tuna guy, he doesn't stop at all. He just bolts for the door. And he's like, "Whoa!" And he runs behind the counter and he starts changing them. And tuna guy now, he gets spooked. And when he runs out and he's looking around where to go, there happened to be on this particular street livery cars. Before there was an Uber and before there was a Lyft, you could call up your neighborhood taxi company. They'd probably show up in a Lincoln Town car, and then they had the black car services for commercial, like if you worked for a business, and they'd send you with a car home. And these type of guys, these guys who drove these cabs, They were all parked on this street. This was they'd get coffee from that deli, and then they'd park out of the way, and they'd sit there and they stand there outside of their cars and they talk, and until a call came over. And when Tuna Man came out, and he's looking, I guess, left or right, and this guy coming out after him, he sees this car running, and he jumps in it, and he puts the car in and drives, and then he takes off. And the guys who were standing on the corner now, they become aware that one of these cars have just been hijacked. And the owner of the car, I think it was the owner of the car, he's about to go in the middle of the street and go like this. Whoa, whoa, what are you doing? He has to dive out of the way. This car is just gunned straight. Tuna guy is on a mission. He makes a right turn off that street. Now, he hits the first two cars in that corner because he cut it too tight. And somehow he finds the West Side Highway. And he takes this Lincoln Town car down the West Side Highway, and he's hitting everything that he can. Anything that's in his way. I don't think he knows about brakes or how to get out of the way or anything. There's a whole bunch of cars at the end of this whole scenario that are parked on the side of the West Side Highway because they got hit by this Lincoln Town car that was driving like crazy. I know he hit the guardrails a couple of times. The West Side Highway ends on 56th Street, and this guy decides to bang a left. Bang! And to avoid getting hit by another car, he loses control, and then he winds up driving right through the front vestibule of a commercial building, the last building on the corner on the west side. I think it was 556 West 56th Street. I think that's the number of it. And now the car is basically half in that lobby. Now, I'm at this bodega, and I'm talking. I responded because this robbery call came over. I was working that night, and I respond, and we're going in the back of there, and we're looking at the video, and of course, all you see is a hoodie and some guy walking in between two guys. They can't really see him in the aisle. Then you see him running out once again with the hoodie, little guy. It's really hard to make him. I mean, there's nothing good going to come out of this tape. But over the radio comes a car accident that happened in Midtown involving a Lincoln Town car. We get word of it. I think the desk called us up to tell us about that. So we head down there. And now here's this Lincoln Town car, half in this building, half outside. Kind of sort of like looked like this in a way. But more of the car was inside. And this next part of the investigation took hours because you got to wait for evidence collection to come. The guy's gone in the wind, and we don't have. We're trying to collect tape, videotape from the area, see where this guy runs. Waiting on that, but in the meantime, evidence collection shows up, and he's dusting for prints on the door, this, that, and the other. He goes, "Hey, do me a favor, move that seat back. You're a tall guy." So I get in there, and I'm moving the seat back, and all of a sudden we hear a crunching sound. And I'm like, what the hell was that? Like, we fucked up the chair or something, And then we open up the back door. There's a can of tuna wedged in the floorboard. One of the cans of tuna must have flew in the back seat, and all this hitting stuff and guardrails and banging into other cars. One of the cans of tuna flew in the back seat, rolled down, fell in there. And up until this time, the guy's like, I don't know how we're not finding a print in this guy. The guy must have wore gloves or something. And so we dust this can of tuna. And he goes, look. And that was a perfect print. Now, all we had to pray for that it came back to somebody. 2 weeks later, I get a notification that the print came back to somebody. And I run the guy, and he was a career criminal. He had done time. And upon further checks, it turns out that he's been sleeping at Ward's Island using the men's shelter. So the next day, me and my partner, we go there, 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. We find out what bed he's in, and sure enough, he's in the bed. And we wake him up. I'm shaking him. And he's like, what's up? I said, sorry, Charlie. He's like, what? I said, we got you on the tuna. He's like, yo, what the fuck are you talking about? I said, we got you on the tuna. He goes, what are you talking about? What are you talking about, Charlie? I said, Charlie sent me. He said, get up, put your clothes on. So the guy's getting dressed. And in the middle of it, he goes, he stops getting dressed. And he's like, yo, let me ask you a question, officer. Yo, detective, for real, just give me a second here. Yo, that Charlie, yo, what Charlie is that, man? That's Charlie from 105th Street? Now, I made a joke about, sorry, Charlie, because this case was called the Tuna Caper. And, Starkist used to have a commercial, and Charlie was the tuna. And they'd always say, sorry, Charlie. And that commercial used to run all the time. And I'm figuring it's a joke. He'll get it, because he was stealing tuna. But he didn't get it at all. No. As a matter of fact, he kept asking me about who this Charlie is. For one thing most people don't realize is that when you arrest somebody, you're probably going to spend 4 to 6 hours with this person, okay? So for the next freaking 6 hours, this guy keeps asking me about who this Charlie was that gave him up. And I didn't want to give up the joke because, you're a comedian. You don't give up the joke. You got to get the freaking joke. So I just rode with it until I couldn't ride with it anymore. I mean, it was like every single step of the way. It was like, I'm trying to get his pedigree information. I got him in the cell and I'm typing. And I can't even get, yo, what's your address? Where are you staying now? Where you lay your head? He's like, yo, detective, let me ask you a question, man, before I tell you that. Yo, that Charlie, man. Who's that Charlie? That's from Gun Hill Road, Charlie? The Bronx? Is that Charlie over there? I'd be like, nah, man. It's not that Charlie, bro. Yo, what's your address, man? Come on, we want to get through this, man. You want to get out of here, right? Come on. What's the Charlie? And then he'd ask me another 3 more times in between then. And then it came time to print them. He started giving me a hard time when he's printing them, because your hand's got to be free. It's got to be flexible in order for me to roll your fingers to get the print. And I'm trying to roll him. He's all tightened up. And I'm like, dude, he goes, yo, let me ask you a question, detective. Yo, for real, man, I'll give you my prints. I'm just curious, man. That Charlie, yo, that's from Charlie from Malcolm X Boulevard. Yo, you got a brother named Diego? Is that the Charlie? I said, nah, man, it's not that Charlie, man. Come on. And this kept going on, asking me about Charlie. He asked me another 3 times before I had to take his picture before we go down to Central Booking. I'm like, dude, just stand here and look into the camera, okay? Yo, for real, yo, detective, let me ask you a question. Yo, that Charlie, man, I'm curious about that Charlie, man, because, that's not right, man. Somebody talking about me, yo, that Charlie, I'm only thinking about Charlie, yo. Yo, that Charlie, man, is he from 145th Street? Is that Charlie over there, man? Because I know a Charlie over there. I'm like, yo, there's no fucking Charlie, bro. Come on, get in the fucking picture. Now it's time to cuff him. And there was another 3 more times in between there where he asked me about Charlie that I had it. Now I'm about at the end of my patience with freaking Charlie and this stupid joke, and I've had enough. I'm ready to cuff him. And he kind of sort of swings away. He's like, yo, detective, yo, for real, man, tell me about Charlie. I'm like, yo, there's no fucking Charlie, bro. It was a fucking joke, man. You never seen the commercial? Sorry, Charlie. The fucking tuna fish, Starkist. You're my age, bro. You never seen that commercial? It was a fucking joke. Don't you get it, you stupid motherfucker? And, yo, this guy got scared, man. I couldn't believe it. He was like, yo, chill. Yo, detective, why you gotta get like that, bro? Yo, man, yo. I'm not even like that, man. Yo, I'm not violent, bro. You don't gotta yell at me like that, bro. I was like, so shut the fuck up about Charlie, man. It was a fucking joke. I was kidding, man. Let it go. He's like, all right. So I cuffed him. He's in the back of the car. And at some point, we're driving down to Central Book, and I started feeling bad. So I was like, it was just a joke, right? He's sitting in the back seat cuffed. I was like, it was just a joke, man. It was like Charlie from the commercial. Tuna. Sorry, Charlie. Don't you remember the commercials? You're my age. He's like, yeah, yo, I got it. Yo, Mr. Detective, yo, I got it, man. It's cool, man. It's cool. We're all good. We're good. I bring him down to Central Book and I'm dropping him off, putting him in the cell. He's like, yo, for real, yo, one more time, yo, Mr. Detective, yo, for real, tell me about Charlie, man, before you go, yo. The guy wouldn't let it go, man. He kept thinking of some guy named Charlie gave them up. Sorry, Charlie. Thank you for tuning in.